One more time for Marchand LaRoux. Come on.
I grew up as the daughter of two New York City police officers, which had an impact on the way I viewed romance. Growing up, my mom told us a lot that the time that she knew that my father was the one was at an NYPD picnic in the 1970s, where my father gathered up all of the children and sat them at a picnic table and recited The Princess Bride in its entirety to them from memory. This is the book. He repeated this to my siblings and I a lot when we were growing up before the movie came out. So obviously that had an impact. Another thing that had an impact were the nightly rounds of our house that we made, in which we would quickly enter a room and survey which objects in it we could use as a weapon or someone to attack us suddenly in self-defense, or what could be used as a weapon against us. So, like, these are skills that I acquired growing up, and which emboldened me perhaps past the point of reason in the dating world. Okay, so a few years ago, I went through this period where I was just kind of saying yes to things, unreasonably so. There was this guy who asked me out on the street, and I said yes. He asked me if I would meet him at his apartment before we went on our date, and I said yes. I did call a friend, so fine. Anyway, I got there, and he opened the door, and I stepped in and did my little survey of the apartment. And as he closed the door, I realized, he said, "Do you mind if we have a drink before leaving?" And I realized he had no intention of us going anyplace. On his kitchen table, there was an open bottle of wine and 2 glasses already poured. So I thought, oh no. And I started talking to him about like his kitchen fixtures to buy time. And so rather than talk to you about this guy's sink, let's recap what's going on in my head. Met him on the street, went to his apartment, and open bottle of wine. Now both of my parents are cops, and like the first 2 of those things are already red flags, but the third is what set off like my weapon goggles. And I'm not a person for cautionary tales towards women, or like, and I don't like the idea that anybody has to strategize about their personal autonomy, because that's just really messed up. However, I have seen The Princess Bride enough times to know that if your personal alarms are going off and there are 2 glasses of wine and a stranger, it's probably poisoned, right? Like, it's not a good situation. I still sat down. So I kind of hemmed and hawed, and I said, like, well, I'm just not that thirsty, I'm not really drinking anything. And I kind of tried to back away, but he just kept pressing me. And after a while, like, I was just getting really annoyed, and I just came clean, and I was like, look, I don't know you, I came to your apartment, like, I think I've been a good sport here. I'm not gonna drink this wine, like, it was already open when I got here. And he looks at me and he goes, you know, if you're gonna have that type of attitude and be scared about the world, you know, you can just get on a bus and go back to Ohio or wherever it was you came from. As a girl from New York, oh. So suddenly, his Vizzini is in like an incredibly tense standoff with my delicate flower of a dread pirate Wesley. And I'm like, all right, well, if this is fine, you drink it. And he's like, all right, no, well, you can just pour from the bottle. I'm like, no, I'm not drinking it. I'm just gonna stick with my water. So we're looking at each other, and he just goes ante up, and he drinks. And I'm like, all right. And so for a couple of minutes, it seems okay. He relaxes a little bit, I relax, he gets a little bit chatty. And I'm thinking, like, it's okay. But then the glass is done. and he is very chatty and relaxed. And I'm like, is this just him? Does he have a low tolerance? But then this is what kicked it. His arm reaches up to the CD boombox that was on a shelf behind him. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Langley School Music Project. Okay, for those of you who aren't, it is. It came out in the '70s. It was like a precursor to Kids Bop. He presses play, and I am treated to a group of children singing David Bowie's Space Oddity as this lesser Vizzini starts to like dry hump my leg. It could not have been better, like a better victory for me. And so I just stayed there and I was like, this is the best ever. And then, just like Vizzini should have known, you never enter, just like you never enter into a land war with a Sicilian, like, he just kind of looked at me, like, went in for the kiss, and, like, slumped over onto the table, and I just kind of, like, got up, kicked him off my leg, and, like, left his apartment and went down into the subway where, yes, there were rodents of unusual size.
One more time for Michelle, come on. Come on, that was pretty great. First story.